Hi everyone. Welcome back to the Unite Pieces channel, and today we will be narrating a drama, action, thriller movie, titled A History of Violence. A History of Violence tells the story of the life of Tom Stahl, who works as a restaurant owner in a small town in Indiana. At first everything is peaceful as usual, but everything changes when Tom has to deal with his past again. So, make sure you watch this video till the end, for a better experience. At the beginning of the movie we are shown with two people who have just come out of a coffee shop on the outskirts of the city. They are Leland Jones and Billy. When they are about to continue their journey they realize that their water supply has run out, so Billy goes back into the coffee shop to fill the water. When Billy enters the shop we can see the corpses of the corpses that have been lying, and it is revealed that the two of them turned out to be a gang of robbers, who were targeting coffee shops in the suburbs, because they thought that small shops on the outskirts of the city would be very easy to rob. When Billy was filling the water, suddenly a child came out of the bathroom. It seems that when the massacre took place, the little girl managed to hide. Billy, who was a ruthless robber, immediately shot the little girl brutally. The scene switches to a small town in Indiana. We will be introduced to someone named Tom Stahl. Tom is the owner of a small coffee shop on the outskirts of the city. Tom has a son named Jack Stahl. Jack and his friends were playing baseball, but in the final minutes of the game, Jack managed to turn things around so that his team won. However, when in the locker room, Jack was approached by someone named Bobby. It seems that this Bobby did not accept because his team was defeated by Jack. Here Bobby challenged him to a fight, but Jack, who didn't want to make a scene, only replied that he was just a cowardly boy and would never dare to fight Bobby, until finally making Bobby choose to leave. In the afternoon when Tom was cleaning up his coffee shop, suddenly Billy and Jones arrived, as we know if these two people are specialist coffee shop robbers. Tom then told them that his coffee shop was no longer serving because it was about to close, but John immediately snapped by saying that he wanted coffee. Tom, who didn't want to cause trouble and was afraid of disturbing the remaining customers, finally agreed to serve them. Here Tom told his female waitress to go home early, but when she was about to leave, Billy confronted her and was rude to her, after which Jones immediately pointed his gun and asked Tom to hand over all the money. However, they underestimated this geeky guy in front of them. Tom quickly finished them off without fear. Everyone who saw Tom's action was certainly very surprised, because the person they thought was ordinary was able to finish the robber very easily. Since the incident, all local and international news reported about Tom. They considered that Tom was a real American hero, because he had paralyzed the robbers alone. Wherever Tom went he would always be followed by paparazzi. Soon Tom's wife, Edie Stahl, came to pick him up from the hospital. When outside the building, it turned out that there were already a lot of people welcoming Tom. Even when Tom got home there were already reporters who wanted to cover it immediately. Here Tom said that all of that was just a coincidence. While inside the house, Jack was very proud of his father, because everyone now considered his father a hero. Shortly after that, a black car was seen watching their house. Edie thinks it must be a reporter, but Tom thinks it might not be. How many days later Tom's coffee shop became very crowded with visitors. It was certainly due to Tom's viral yesterday. Even this time his own wife helped Tom's work, because there were so many customers. Not long after came three strangers who approached Tom. Their leader was named Carl Fogarty. Here Carl called Tom as Joey Cusack, but Tom denied it and revealed that his name was Tom Stahl, not Joey Cusack. Carl then removed his glasses and asked again, "Does Tom recognize himself now?" After leaving, Tom's wife called the local sheriff to report that there had just been three suspicious strangers, after which the sheriff immediately stopped Carl's car and asked several questions. In the afternoon, the sheriff, who had discovered Carl's true identity, immediately told Tom and his wife. The sheriff revealed that Carl was a ruthless mobster from Philadelphia. Even in their records, Carl had committed murder 15 times, but was always free thanks to the money they spent. The sheriff asked Tom, "Does Tom have a problem with him?" Tom replied that they were looking for Joe Cusack's name, but Tom himself didn't know who it was. The next day on Sunday, Tom decided to go to his shop and wanted to relax there. While Tom was staying in the shop, Tom saw that Carl's car had been watching him, and then his car immediately left, which made Tom panic and immediately called his wife while running home. Tom asked his wife to take the rifle that Tom kept on top of the cupboard and just in case someone else broke into the house. Meanwhile, Tom continued to run towards his house, and Tom arrived home right when his wife pointed his rifle. His wife wondered what really happened. Tom replied that he might still be traumatized by what happened yesterday, so he became paranoid. Jack, who happened to be there, was surprised, because it turned out that his father had a rifle stored at home. The next day, Tom's wife was seen taking her youngest son to a supermarket to buy shoes. However, suddenly they met Carl. Here Carl said that he had business with Joey Cusack or Tom. Carl also told him that Tom was the most feared former hitman in Philadelphia. Even Tom was the one who had damaged his eyes with a hot iron. Tom's incredulous wife ignored the words, then hurried away. On the other hand, Jack, who was at school, was suddenly bullied by Bobby. Even Bobby insulted and degraded Tom, saying that Tom was a murderer who wanted to seek fame. Hearing all that, Jack felt that he couldn't stand it anymore, so Jack hit Bobby and beat him. However, because of this incident, Jack was suspended from school. Jack was also scolded by Tom, where Tom explained to Jack that solving affairs should never use violence. However, here Jack replied by saying that his father had solved the problem by killing. This made Tom upset and then slapped him, and it made Jack leave the house. Shortly thereafter, Tom met his wife, who had just returned from the supermarket. Here his wife told him that while he was at the supermarket, Carl reappeared to meet him. Even Carl told him scary things about Tom. Not long after, Carl came with his men. Here Carl asked Tom to come with them to Philadelphia, because there was someone waiting for him. At first Tom refused, but it turned out that they had taken Jack hostage, which in the end Tom was willing to come with them as long as they would release Jack. However, when Tom's family was safe, Tom retracted his words to come with them, and told them to leave his house immediately. Hearing that, Carl asked his men to take Tom by force, so there was a dispute between them. Although Tom managed to kill 2 of Carl's men, but Tom was also shot in the shoulder. When Carl was about to finish him, Carl asked if Tom had any last words, but right after that Jack shot Carl using his father's rifle. In the evening it was seen that Tom was in the hospital because of a gunshot wound in his shoulder. Soon his wife came to Tom. Here Tom's wife asked Tom who Tom really was, because he saw firsthand how Tom finished off each of his enemies, and it was certainly common for a professional killer. Tom, who was cornered, finally admitted that Tom used to be an executor for the big mafia, and his real name was Joey Cusack. But this has been Tom left behind, since Tom met his wife Ida. Hearing that confession, Tom's wife was certainly very disappointed, because such a big thing was able to be hidden through Tom's innocent face. Long story short, when Tom was going home from the hospital, it was seen that Jack, his son, was also disappointed after knowing his father's profession. In the afternoon, Tom was visited by Sharif. Sharif asked about yesterday's incident, because it was impossible for the bad guys to be wrong in choosing their target. Moreover, news had spread that Tom was actually Joey Cusack, a hit machine from Philadelphia. From that statement Tom just kept quiet, because he had run out of excuses, but who would have thought? His wife tried to hide Tom's identity, and told Sharif that Tom was not Joey Cusack. Ida also asked Sharif for understanding so as not to add to her family's burden, because in recent days their family had suffered many disasters. In the end, Sharif, who was uncomfortable with Tom's family, chose to leave there. Midnight. When Tom fell asleep, suddenly the sound of the phone rang. When picked up, it turned out to be a call from someone named Richie, from Philadelphia. The man asked Tom to meet him immediately, if not then Richie himself would come to Tom's house. Hearing this, Tom rushed away from home to head to the city of Philadelphia. Tom was worried that if he did not comply with Richie's request, Richie would threaten the safety of his family. All day Tom drove to Philadelphia, until in the evening Tom stopped by a bar, and there Tom met Richie's men who were waiting for him. After drinking for a while, Tom was immediately taken to Richie's residence, and Tom met Richie, and it was discovered that Richie was Tom's biological brother, surnamed Cusack. Richie is also the head of the entire mafia in Philadelphia. While in his room, Richie expressed his disappointment with Tom, because in the past when Tom and Richie were fighting with other mobsters for territory, Tom suddenly disappeared without news, until finally Richie managed to find Tom again. Here Richie still feels betrayed by his own brother. Tom then expresses his apology for leaving Richie, and as a form of apology, Tom is willing to be ordered anything, such as slaughtering Richie's rivals, as long as Richie wants to forgive him. But here Richie just wants to see Tom die in front of his eyes. Soon Richie's men immediately strangled Tom. But Tom was so tough and Tom immediately finished off Richie's men. Richie frantically shot using his gun, but the shot missed, so Tom immediately ran to hide. Richie and the remaining men immediately looked for him, but it didn't take long for Tom to finish off all of Richie's men. Then Tom pointed his gun at his own brother, and Richie looked like he wanted to say something, but Tom immediately finished him. Long story short, Tom went home, and he was completely free from his past, because there would be no more chasing him. The movie end. From this movie we can learn not to underestimate people just because of their appearance. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.